wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we do have to make sure the tubes are working. Sometimes there's, FBI agents or CIA agents or Hunter Biden's running around in the tubes. Who knows what's going on there? But it looks like it's working, which is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Govea. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about a little bit of tension in the air. We have a little problem percolating with China. We've talked a lot about this balloon saga, and the Navy just came out and they released photographs of the recovery of the balloon, which conveniently, apparently most of it's at the bottom of the stinking ocean. All right, so we'll talk about that. You see one photograph here. They released, I think, 6 or 7 of them. I was poking around and sort of clipping from multiple different sources. We'll go through all the different balloon photos that are out there. We'll also take a quick reminder about where this balloon actually flew. This Twitter account called Roz Alerts tracked the path of the balloon, evidently, and then it showed where it is over strategic sites and where it is not over strategic sites. So we'll take a look at that. We've got reaction from Chuck Schumer. Of course, he is the Senate Majority Leader. The Democrats still control the Senate. He's the guy who controls the Democrats, well, I would say in the Senate and mostly everywhere else. And he came out today with a little bit of a press briefing, and he's very happy with what the Biden administration was able to accomplish. He said, "I applaud them. They did a fabulous job," and we'll go through that clip. He also says this was a major intelligence boon for the United States, and they got a lot of really good photographs, I guess, for their Instagram accounts of what this balloon looks like. We also have the U.S. and China relationship that we all have to consider. And Schumer says that things are, in his word, not mine, tense. Things are tense, which you can imagine. They think that we nuked one of their very innocent spy satellites, and we know that was not the case. So we'll turn our attention then over to the Republicans. Steve Scalise got asked about this when the Republicans were making a press statement about this. A lot of border talk today, but a lot of the media still wanted to know about the balloon. So we've got 2 clips about this. The Republicans are saying legislation is going to be coming, so hold on tight. General Mattis responding to whether the Trump administration military, whether the officials in control during that time, whether they knew anything about balloons. Remember, there were stories we covered yesterday where they were saying that the Trump people allowed balloons to meander across themselves. And so why are you giving Joe Biden so much grief about this if this all happened under Trump as well? So we'll go through all of that as we talk about the balloons. Then we'll turn our attention over to what's going on in Congress. We had a ton of activity today and some fun stuff. Jim Jordan, who is the chairman of the new House Judiciary Committee, is going wild against those so-called intelligence people who signed that Hunter Biden letter. Remember that one we talked a lot about? Those 51 so-called intelligence people from the, former CIA and NSA and ex-DOD and Berkeley, whatever. And they all said that Hunter Biden laptop story was totally fake. Turns out they were all liars or idiots, pick one. And the new Republican Party is asking them for explanations. And take a look at this. Look at all of these. Okay, it's the same letter, basically, but it's going to everybody. Bash, Brennan, Clapper, Finger, Hayden, Ledger, McLaughlin, Morrill, Rasmussen, Shapiro, all of them, right? They all got letters. Jordan is not happy. So we'll go through, refresh our memory on what that looks like, what that original letter was. John Brennan is the guy who we're going to read what he got in the mail. This is John Brennan, the former CIA director. Jordan also spoke about this, said that, there's all sorts of accountability coming, and we can't wait to bring it. And then we'll actually look at the letter that Jim Jordan sent over into the inbox of former CIA Director John Brennan saying, "Listen, buddy, we're in charge now. You don't get to run your mouth and promote fake news all over the place." So all of that will be in the second segment. That is in the Judiciary Committee. And then in the third segment, we're going over to the Oversight Committee, and you can see our friend James Comer with that gavel just looking beautiful there, just banging that puppy right there, taking control of the Oversight Committee. And he sent a bunch of letters too. And of course, we love reading letters here. So we've got Comer is sending one over to Kathy Chung. And Kathy Chung is a name that we haven't heard about in some time, but she according to the New York Times or the Washington Post, whatever article we're going to read here. I think this is from the Washington Post. Longtime aide to the Biden people. She may have been in the chain of custody in this document debacle, right? So Biden's not moving the boxes around from one location to the other. Other people are doing it. Somebody hired the movers or the lawyer movers or, the shredding company or whoever. And so Kathy Chung's responsible for that. And so she got a letter over from Comer. John Kerry also is getting a letter. Apparently he's negotiating with China for whatever reason. And if you remember, he was also at the World Economic Forum where he came out and he announced to the world that somebody touched him. You remember that? We'll play the clip. Somebody touched me, he said. So, I'm touched to save humanity, or it's a weird situation. And, he's been in Washington for a long time, so who knows what that means. But he also got a letter from Comer. And then if you remember this woman, her name is Jennifer Granholm. She works in the energy department. And she got a letter too. So a bunch of letters we're going to go through. She was the woman that said, you want me to do something about gas prices? What are you, nuts? What do you think I am, the government? No, all right. So we'll go through her letter. So you can see the Republicans, man, they are just tapping away on their keyboards over there, firing off letters all over the place. I love it. Absolutely love it. And we're going to go through all of them in detail. And so as you can see, we have just a lot to get to today, my friends. And if you want to be a part of the program and you want to support the show and you want to join an amazing community and get extra content and all of the other things, then go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have an awesome community chatting away over there. We do member morning streams. There's a bunch more coming. I'm working on a ton of stuff behind the scenes that I can't wait to share with you guys. Starting next week, I think. So it's coming really, really soon. I've got a ton of stuff to share. So members only content, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Of course, our sponsors for this stream and the show are Brickhouse Nutrition, where you can get your Field of Greens and save 15% using code Robert. Just go over to fieldofgreens.com. Get this real organic superfood. It tastes great, goes down easy. It's your daily servings of vegetables and fruits all blended into one, and it makes you just feel ultra vibrant and energetic, bursting with green energy. So check it out at brickhousenutrition.com. Don't forget to use code Robert. And of course, our law firm, the R&R Law Group, we're located in Scottsdale, Arizona. We help good people charged with crimes. There's going to be a lot of good people charged with crimes this weekend. There are cops everywhere. Saturation patrols are going hog wild. Our calendar is already filling up. So it's going to be very busy. 480-787-0394. We got the Super Bowl. We got the Waste Management Open. We got all sorts of stuff. So if you need help, that's what our team does. 480-787-0394. All right. So let's get right into business, my friends. Maddie's asking, do you comb that hair with the salad fork? No, but it is getting thick. I have a haircut tomorrow. I know I got to deal with it. Thanks for bringing it up. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day. The Biden balloon saga continues. This time, the U.S. military is dragging it out of the ocean. You can see photos were released by the U.S. Navy. We are going to take a look at all of them because there are some interesting things going on. We also have the flight path of the balloon. This came from Ra's alerts. They're telling us that the Chinese surveillance balloon flew over some very sensitive sites, like Minutemen sites, Titan sites, Atlas sites, and we're going to take a look at the flight path. We also have clips from Schumer and the Republicans before we go over to General Mattis, who explains what the Trump administration knew. But first, let's start off with the photos of the balloon as it's being recovered from the United States Navy. You can see here a pretty small ship that's got a little, boat just kind of floating out there, and it is pulling up the balloon, right? That looks like actual balloon inflatable material, like a latex or a cloth fabric, like you'd see an actual balloon. Here, you also see some, looks like scaffolding or some bracing metal construction, probably to hold solar panels or whatever the rest of the payload look like. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 back there if that's a second person in the silhouette there. So 8 to 10 people on this boat, and they're pulling ashore the balloon. We also have some more photographs. They're going out into the night. So this, you can see here, this looks like sort of like a dusk photo. The sun is setting behind them. They're out there for a while, so they're still pulling this thing up. And this doesn't look like it's all that much of a different scene, right? It's kind of the same scene. A second boat shows up. Looks like mostly the same crew. They're still continuing to pull out that sort of scaffolding or whatever that brace looks like to hold other equipment. Here, a big carrier, big ship back there behind in the horizon. They're pulling up the boat. Looks like a different boat, actually, right? So that's a little bit of a different, that might be the same boat or the similar structure of a boat. Yeah, just a different angle. Here's another close-up. And it's probably not that far off, right, from the same time. So I'm trying to think about how far apart are these photos, and are we getting different angles? And is there anything that we can see from them? Is there anything we can glean from them? Nah, not really. This photo looks like it's probably much the same as this photo, sort of taken right around the same time. And we've got some lights. That one guy has a headlight on. Don't see any diving equipment, really. I mean, not that, nobody's suited up or anything, it looks like. So they're all just sort of pulling stuff up. Don't know that anybody is in the water diving, right? Haven't seen anybody in the water going down to the bottom, or if everything is connected. Here's another close-up. Looks like more of the balloon inflation material, whatever it's made of. Don't really know any of that yet. Here's yet another angle. All right, so that's basically what we get. Not a ton of stuff to glean. They bring it ashore. We don't know how much has ultimately been recovered, or what is still floating around, or what is at the bottom of the ocean. We don't know. Now, a lot of the media today is sort of focused, or I would say a lot of the administration today is focused on the State of the Union. So there wasn't a press briefing from Kerry. There wasn't a press secretary, spokesman statement from the Department of Defense or the Pentagon or the State Department. We didn't really have much today because everybody's focused on the State of the Union. And so we'll see if Joe Biden addresses it at all or not. But we do know the flight path certainly looks a little bit problematic. Republicans are upset about it. Even Democrats are upset about it. I think a large swath of Americans are sort of upset about this because, as you can see from this image, and let's zoom in on this just a little bit and pull this open so we can actually see the file. Here it is, little bit zoomed in. So here they tell us that it was first spotted Thursday afternoon in Montana. It was flying through, spotted Thursday evening, Wyoming. And these little dots, the red, orange, and yellow dots, resemble different sites. And this is according to Roz Alerts on Twitter. But Atlas sites, Titan sites, Minuteman sites. So you're sort of watching this balloon fly over very sensitive areas. You've got Wyoming. It sort of made a pass over that. Didn't look like it jumped over that juncture. But another theory is that the balloon, if it's so high up, it has like a big cone that comes down. The higher it is, the wider the diameter of the cone because it's farther away. So it sort of expands the surveillance area, the footprint of the balloon. So it goes through South Dakota, right over this cluster where there's 4 different sites there. 2 sites in Nebraska. It goes over, 1 near the border between Kansas. Missouri flies over there, spotted Friday afternoon, Friday morning between Nebraska and Missouri. Friday night, it is over Nashville. And then we sort of see that it's out of the range of a lot of the sensitive areas at that point. It's making its way back to South Carolina. Of course, it was shot down on Saturday afternoon. We talked all about that. So a very interesting path. And it seems like it got most of what it needed when it reached Montana. And there's questions about this. Is this a pre-planned flight path? Are they able to stop the were they able to stop the transmission of data from the satellite over to, or from this balloon over to China? Or how did this all go? We don't know. But there are questions about this, and the reaction from the Democrats to what the Biden administration did is still unfolding. We turn our attention to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, of course, is the majority leader in the Senate. And he gets asked about, actually, this isn't even a question. Chuck Schumer was delivering a press briefing, and he volunteered that the Biden administration did a great job on the balloon, says, I applaud the work that they did. They acted calm and cautiously, and this went down about as good as you could expect.
Okay? So Republicans are stuck. They can't govern. They can't agree on anything. Instead, they're focused on political theater. They don't do they're not trying to do anything real. And we hope they won't continue to do this on something as important as the surveillance balloon. China sent that surveillance balloon over.
Yeah, and you let it float
Biden
through.
Administration was calm, calculated, and effective. According to, they listened to the military experts, they listened to the intelligence experts, and they did the right thing.
Did the military tell them to allow it to float into the airspace and allow it to float through midland America? That was the military's consensus not to blow it out of the sky up in Alaska? I mean, don't we deserve answers on that entire thought process?
But Republicans, even before they saw and knew what was happening, started, some of them, not all, lambasting the president.
Because when it came in to the United States airspace, that's when the problem was. That's when the breach was. Violation of international law. They know that. We all know that. It became a security risk at that moment. At that moment, as soon as it crossed the border, were you able to shut it down? Were you able to know exactly what it was? No, right? It took like till it got into like Kansas until we started to get answers from the Pentagon. So that's when the breach was. That's why people started lambasting the administration when it crossed. And that's why they've been continuing it up through today.
Those criticisms were at best premature and in all probability highly political. This is one area where we don't need politics. So we need Democrats and Republicans to come together. We need the country to come together to condemn China for what it did and have a unified front in dealing with the Chinese Communist Party. I applaud President Biden for his leadership.
Great job letting it float around.
Listen to the military and national security experts. And I think as we go forward in time, everyone's going to see what he did was the right thing. We hope our Republican colleagues will avoid the politics. And there's some talk of a joint resolution condemning China. I hope that's what they do. Ready for your questions.
Well, that's not going to happen. Of course, the Republicans are going to beat up the Biden administration peacefully and politically all over this because, as many people are suggesting, it kind of was a boneheaded thing to do. Now, Schumer gets some questions on that. You heard that was his statement. I applaud the Biden people. Great job. The military said, let's shoot it down after it's over water. And many open questions about that still, right? Did it have an explosive? Did it have some other volatile in there? Something biological, something nuclear, something else? Nobody knows, right? That's part of the question. But the military and the DOD and Pat Ryder and everybody over there from the Pentagon, they didn't tell us that. They didn't say, we don't want to shoot it down because there could be a volatile or there could actually be a threat. They didn't say, well, we actually don't know what's up there, so it's best for us to just let it float over. And of course, would they ever tell us that? No, obviously, right? They're not going to say, well, yeah, we can't shoot it down because it might be carrying nuclear materials up there. You know, we don't know. They're not going to say that. No, it's totally inert. It's just a balloon. It might as well be a weather balloon. I mean, it's not a weather balloon, but it might as well be. It's not even a big deal. Right. And it's floating overhead. And then finally it's over water. It's not populated over there. Boom, they take it down. And whatever it is contained, you know, and there's not a bunch of divers, it looks like, rushing to the bottom of the ocean. Maybe there are. We don't know. If there are, they didn't send any photos of that stuff. So we've got more questions from Schumer. And the next one comes here. They say, you know, you're sort of getting criticized over here. The Democrats are kind of getting beaten up over this. And you guys are looking quite foolish by saying that Trump people did it too. It kind of looks like that kid who gets in trouble, you know, who does something bad. He goes, well, everybody else did it too. And you go, well, no, they didn't. All right. You did it. So own it. But he's sort of moving past that. And he's being asked questions now about potential failures of the Biden administration to adequately deal with this. And he picks up the same line of thinking that we heard yesterday from the State Department with our friend Ned. Ned was telling us, this was a great operation. We got all sorts of material out of this. Do you know how many pictures we got? No. First of all, let me correct the record here. China wasn't spying on us, okay? We were spying on them. We wanted that balloon here. And when that balloon got here, we spied even harder than they were spying on us. And so how about that, China?
Yes.
Back to the State of the Union, you mentioned the Chinese spy balloon. There's still, the U.S. military is still recovering some of the debris from the ocean right now. How much do you want to hear President Biden discuss the Chinese spy balloon in his State of the Union today?
Well, there'll be a limit to what he can discuss because a lot of it will be classified. But again, I think he can say this. I've said it. It's not classified. By letting the balloon be shot down over water, we got far greater look at these balloons, which are relatively new. We didn't know about them. Our military and our surveillance NSA didn't know about them till last year. 3 of them went over when Trump was there.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to ask General Mattis about that. We've got a clip from him coming up. He was speaking at some academy somewhere, and he's going to clarify that record because we've already got Mark Esper says no. We've already got Pompeo says no. We've already got Ratcliffe says no. And these guys are laughing at them. Like, this is ridiculous. There was nothing like this going on. So we're going to go over to General Mattis as well. And we know many of these people are not huge fans of Trump either. So we'll see what Mattis says about this. But this is more Schumer saying this is a great operation, by the way. First of all, we can see a ton of stuff at the bottom of the ocean. And it's also, hopefully, the Chinese waterproofed and ocean-proofed all of their spy equipment because, we wouldn't want the ocean water to ruin it.
But you can't blame Trump because he didn't know of them. They didn't know of them then.
Yeah, nobody knew about it then.
Having them come down over water is a huge advantage than having them come down over land.
Why?
Because over water, much of the surveillance balloons stuff can be recovered. So we're going to know what it is.
You can't get it if it lands on the ground. You can't blow it up over the Aleutian Islands up there. This is all fake garbage nonsense. He's full of crap.
And we're also going to know what they've sought. And even as the balloon came over the southeastern part of the United States, we were monitoring it very, very carefully to see what the Chinese were picking up and not. So I think we're going to learn a lot.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like they could see the information that was being beamed home to China so they could pick it up. Now, yesterday we heard from Pompeo. Mike Pompeo was the CIA director at some point, also somebody who had a lot of access to the intelligence committees and so on. And he said that he had heard that maybe they had the ability to cut off the transmission, what it was Hoover vacuuming up and siphoning off over to China. Were they able to stop that? Like, were they able to block the transmission of the data? And other people are saying, well, obviously that's not the case, because if they were able to block the transmission of the data, wouldn't the balloon stop its trajectory? I mean, the balloon was like getting remote control commands, like somebody was controlling a race car. Going this way, going this way. We already heard from Patrick Ryder, the Pentagon spokesman, previously that he said that it actually made he didn't say this directly, but he basically implied it, that it made a change. As soon as it got reported in the media, the balloon changed trajectory. So somebody back in China, President Xi's on his iPhone, spy hacking, spy surveillance balloon app. He's like, oh man, this app is so great. It's so convenient. Look, let me zoom in. And he said, oh crap, it's in the media. He goes, boop, boop, changes it, and it changes course and goes down, better get over those nuclear silos as quick as we can. And so they start flying over middle America. They could have taken it down at any single point during that juncture. It would have landed on the land and they could have picked it all up. They wouldn't have even needed a boat. They could have just backed up a pickup truck right there.
I think he can talk about that he listened to the military. By the way, had he not listened to the military, do you think those same Republicans would have said, he was premature, he did it too soon, he should have listened to the military? I bet some of them would have.
Not the military thing. I think that's sort of a misdirection. I think that he probably would have been criticized, probably even by me. I can be honest about this. If he would have just balloon nuked the balloon, immediately, and he came out, he's like, oh, I'm Joe Biden, like a Gates of Hell speech. And he's like, we're going to stand strong against China. I probably would have been like, all right, Joe, very convenient here, buddy boy. You're under special counsel investigation for your own Biden document scandal. You've got Hunter Biden. He's getting, a lot of scrutiny down his neck, rightfully so. Republicans are in charge. House investigations coming from the Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee. Yeah, like you could use a distraction, right? That would have been my criticism, I think. But I also would have been like, all right, that's pretty dang, all right, Joe, that's pretty good there, China Joe. That's pretty amazing. Like that's good. That's what you should do. And if he would have come out and said, also, there were other balloons that had crossed over the border, and there's another one down in Latin America, and there's one up in Canada, and we're not letting it come into my airspace. I took it out. I'm like, all right, well, what can you do about that? It is very convenient that they sent a balloon over in the middle of all of these scandals, but he didn't do that. He just let it float through us, float all around, took it out at the last moment, and now they're all trying to look backwards and come up with justifications for why they did it that way.
But in any case, although that didn't happen, so I think that he will show why he did it, but I don't think we'll get the details till we have our classified briefing on Thursday. And by the way, that briefing was going to be the Gang of Eight, but lots of members wanted it. They were entitled to it. So I requested that it be expanded to the whole Senate, and the administration agreed. Yes.
All right. So a lot of senators are going to get a lot of information. A lot more senators are going to be figuring out what, I guess, the backstory is on this balloon. And so we have a very interesting clip here from our friend Chuck, and he gets asked about the relationship with China. And he's saying, you know, things are looking a little bit tense here, is what he says. And so before we listen to that clip, we have to remind ourselves that if we are about to enter World War III with a foreign nation, it is appropriate that we are all healthy and well so we can fight back the foreign invaders, which means, you know, it's probably a good idea that we lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. You know what I mean? How sick are you of those ads for weight loss and fad diets, all that stuff? Right? You've been there. You've done that. They don't work. You know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. You do that, and I bet the weight just falls right off. But look, vegetables, you know, not a fan. Who's got time to prepare all that stuff every day? Solution. Let's talk about Field of Greens. Fieldofgreens.com. Science-backed formula. Specific fruits and vegetables you're not going to find in any other product. We know proper nutrition reboots your metabolism. You can burn calories faster, lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Look, you're going to feel healthier, look healthier, but the greater proof is going to come at your next doctor's visit when he says, "You look fabulous. Whatever you've done, you look great. Keep it up." Let's get you started, my friends. 15% you can save off your first order. Very easy. Visit fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use promo code Robert when you enter in your order. Promo code Robert at fieldofgreens.com, and you can get your real organic superfood, feel vibrant, start preparing for World War III, and be healthy also, and perform better at work, and be happier, and, you know, feel good also in your day-to-day. It's not just for World War III. It's also just a nice addition to our lives. And so check that out, my friends, at fieldofgreens.com. All right. Now, since we have that out of the way, let's check in with Chuck Schumer. And of course, he gets asked about the relationship with China. Hey, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, can you tell us how Biden's response to the Chinese spy balloon is going over with the Chinese? What do you think the relationship looks like now?
On the Chinese spy balloon, how would you describe the U.S. relation right now with China?
Tense.
Ish.
Do you think that the U.S. should take retaliatory action against?
Well, look, they postponed the trip of Blinken, and I know the administration is looking at other actions that can be taken. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
What's the relationship in China?
On the Chinese spy balloon, how would you describe the U.S. relation right now with China?
Tense.
Tense.
Do you think that?
Yikes. All right. Well, as we know, if you're in, in a World War III, you wouldn't know you're in World War III probably until year 3 or 4, maybe. Who knows? But it feels like we might be getting closer and closer to that. The Republicans are responding. They're saying, yeah, the Biden people really sort of screwed this up pretty badly. The House Republicans came out. They had an entire press briefing as well. They talked a lot about the border, the debt, and other issues. But Mr. Scalise, Steve Scalise, was asked about the balloon. How do you think the Biden administration did handling the Chinese spy balloon? Questions are very quiet on this. You can hear the gain.
Bipartisan. Yeah, there were a number of, well, first of all, we set up a bipartisan commission on China, and Chairman Gallagher is already going to work with that committee. But there's standing committees that have jurisdiction as well. Yesterday I was meeting with some of the chairs of committees who are working on privacy legislation. You want to talk about a way to confront, whether it's TikTok, whether it's so many other social media platforms that are collecting data on Americans every single day, and how to counter that. I think there are real bipartisan opportunities to pass strong privacy protections for Americans.
Yeah, the Chinese spy balloon was just gathering data, as far as we know, just surveillance data from a topical level, unless it was also grabbing Wi-Fi's and stuff like that. I don't know how that would work from that far up, or whatever it could gobble up. But the point is, right, it's a physical surveillance device flying overhead. TikTok is an app that's installed in 100 million American phones that asks you for permission to spread its disgusting tentacles into every facet of your life. And nobody's really banging the table about that one over there in Congress. Yeah, they come out, well, we don't use it in our office. Nobody cares about that, right? It's about what China can do to influence, according to Christopher Wray in the FBI's own assessment on this, what they can do to influence physically the minds of Americans with just the flip of a switch there in Beijing.
But the spy balloon is a different problem, and this is a national security threat that was a test. You know, and President Biden tried to call it a success that they shot the balloon down over the ocean. The problem is it was the wrong ocean shot it down over. Atlantic. It should have been the Pacific Ocean. You can look at the trajectory of that balloon and when the American government detected it. There were many opportunities over the Pacific Ocean to shoot it down before it could actually carry out its mission. It completed its mission. President Biden let it complete its mission before he shot it down.
Yeah, isn't it a mission accomplished? I mean, if the Chinese were beaming data this whole time, it's a spy satellite. It was built and created to beam data. If it was successfully doing that the entire juncture, that's a mission accomplished for them, as far as I can tell. The only thing that they lost was the equipment, but it was probably a suicide mission anyways. So who cares if they lost, you know, what is it, $1 million, $2 million, $500 million? To them, it doesn't matter. It's just fake money. And all they're doing is basically printing it anyways.
And it went over many military bases. It wasn't some random path that it took through the United States. It was very specific through a number of very sensitive military bases that it flew over.
As we
and
saw.
This idea that, oh, don't worry, it wasn't collecting data or sending it back to China. How can anybody say that with a straight face? First of all, it was still flying on its path. So it was getting some kind of data from somewhere to know where to go.
Unless it was pre-programmed, right? It could have been pre-programmed, like as a fail-safe. Okay, if you lose contact with your phone home people in China, go this way and see what you can get and then figure out how to send that. Maybe it has a black box that drops to the bottom of the ocean and the Chinese go pick it up or something, you know, who knows? Or it's got a submarine little device. It's already submarining back over to China. Who knows?
You're telling me it wasn't also sending information back during that path. It should have never been allowed to complete its mission. It should have never been allowed to start its mission. It should have been shot down over the Pacific Ocean when we had multiple opportunities.
Totally. And they let it fly around because they had a trip coming up and they didn't want to offend the Chinese. That's all it was. It was just a big delay. They didn't want to jinx a trip that they had planned. And so they would rather jeopardize American national security to save face. Here's the final clip from Scalise. Questions about this come in from the media. They want to know, well, all right, you guys going to do anything about this? I mean, we've got a balloon situation. The Biden people are doing cartwheels. They think they did an outstanding job, just job well done, like almost like a mission accomplished. They should get an aircraft carrier. But this is the question. You know, the Republicans are now in charge of the House. Are you guys going to pass legislation? Is this going to be solved anytime soon?
On legislation right now. We're working on legislation right now dealing with the Chinese spy balloon. There's 4 different committees involved. And so as you can imagine, each committee is working through. We haven't even had the classified briefings yet. You know, the Gang of 8 briefing that was supposed to be had hasn't yet been called yet. We're trying to get a full briefing with all of the members of Congress. Speaker McCarthy has asked for a full briefing of all members of Congress to find out what really happens. So we're still gathering more facts, working through that process. So we may have a piece of legislation, but it's not finalized yet. Thank you all. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how the Biden administration stops them from getting that data. It'll be interesting. Well, you know, probably we'll get Korean Jean-Pierre, like we said, just go talk to China Council, talk to Xi Jinping's council if you want to know the details on that one. So we had another issue pop up. Big question was whether the Trump administration knew anything about this. The media went wild. They said, Biden's balloon? Okay, well, what about Trump's balloons? He had 3 of them. Biden only had 1. Meanwhile, all of the Trump people, we've got Ratcliffe, Esper, we had Pompeo, Bolton, all of them saying that's nuts. Okay, and we know Bolton, if there was a balloon that flew across from China, he would have told all of us, believe me. He would have said, that's it, we got to go to war. Everybody, get your boys and girls, arm them up, we're going to war with China, right? He would have been doing cartwheels for a war, because that's what he does. But that didn't happen. So I don't think that there were any balloons, because there were a lot of neocons in the Trump administration that would have been pounding the table to go to war, and that never happened. And people also never took videos or photographs of the Chinese balloons back during the Trump years. So it felt like it was a bunch of finger pointing to say, well, you know, you might think we're idiots, but they were even bigger idiots than we are. Except they didn't do any of that stuff, evidently. In this video, we have a clip from General Mattis. He's speaking to a group of individuals at an academy somewhere, and they ask him about the balloon situation. He says, I don't even know what you're talking about. There is no balloon story that I remember at all.
Yeah, the balloon's serious. I don't mean to make light of it, but don't worry that it suddenly was able to find things out, satellites that are up in low Earth orbit weren't spotting already. You gotta wonder, was it stupidity or left hand not telling the right hand what they're doing? Why the Chinese chose that time to do it? But I'm gonna tell for any of you young guys in the audience, if you wanna make a 4-star general, fight enemy generals dumber than a bucket of rocks, okay? Brilliant. But in this case, I would still say it's serious, but I wouldn't get overly worried at all about it. But there are some questions we all, as Americans, need to answer, I think. Did it really happen during the past administration? Because there doesn't seem to be anybody from the past administration who's aware of it.
No, nobody.
Not for the first 2 years of that administration. Now, it's possible there's old radar tapes that show things that now if we go back, knowing what it looks like, go back and say, well, that wasn't an ice storm over the Aleutians, that was a balloon, or I don't know. But no, there's some answers that the American people are owed. And could we not have taken it down sooner? I mean, NORAD, North American Air Defense, has got a lot of Canadian fighters and the Alaska-based U.S. fighters up there intercepting Russian planes routinely up over the Bering Straits.
So nothing, right? Doesn't have any knowledge of it. Nobody had any knowledge of it. Maybe they were flying around or something, but nobody took pictures. Nobody had any incidents with this thing. And now they're all pointing fingers back to Trump because they don't want to be embarrassed any further. We'll see what they're able to dig up for us or literally pull up from the bottom of the ocean and whether they'll share it with us. But I do suspect that there will be more. I mean, it sounds like the entire Senate's going to get briefed on this. If Kevin McCarthy has his way, the entire House of Representatives is going to be briefed on this. And that means that we, the American people, probably should learn more about it because a lot more representatives will get it, which is good news. Typically what happens with this garbage is, it's like 4 people who learn about it or the gang of 8 and then none of us know the details. They say, no, it was just a big misunderstanding and we love China again. So we'll see. Now we'll continue to cover it. Thank you for following along. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Now let's turn our attention over to the Judiciary Committee. Jim Jordan and the Judiciary Committee are coming in hot. You remember that letter about Hunter Biden that came out from those 50 so-called intelligence experts who had no intelligence at all and weren't experts about anything? Well, they sent a letter to the media after the laptop was leaked, and the New York Post posted these stories, and the media basically buried the story because the elections were right around the corner and they didn't want the Hunter Biden story to go wild and hurt Biden's chances. We are going to take a look at the letter. We also have John Brennan, who explains his basis for signing the letter. But then take a look at this. Jim Jordan sent demands to about 12 people who signed the letter, demanding to know more. Look at all of these names. We've got Chairman Jordan sends a letter to Bash on the Hunter laptop Russian disinformation statement. He wants to know, why'd you sign the statement? Who told you about the statement? And so on. We're going to read the letter. But he also sent letters to Brennan, Clapper, Finger, Hayden, Leggett, McLaughlin, Morrill, Rasmussen, Shapiro, Travers, and Vickers. And now we're not going to read every single one of these letters. We're only going to look at the one that came from this guy, John Brennan. John Brennan got a letter from Jim Jordan. It looks like this. We'll read through it here shortly. But first, what is this about, right? John Brennan signed this letter. And if you remember, this letter came out on October 19th, 2020. You remember this, right? It was signed by all of these people. Jim Clapper. And look at all these very important titles. Director of National Intelligence, Secretary of Defense, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Geospatial Agency. Wow, very smart because they work for the government all over the place. Here's another one, Mike Hayden, remember him? CIA. Leon Panetta, CIA. John Brennan. We're going to take a look at the letter that Jim Jordan sent over to him. But he was the former director, okay, the top person at the CIA. Also, former White House Homeland Security Counterterrorism Advisor. Also, all of these other things. All these people. Finger, Leggett, McLaughlin, Morrill, Vickers, Wise, Rasmussen. Okay, they're all getting letters from Jim Jordan because they want to know, the new Republicans want to know why these so-called experts of intelligence got it so wrong. Remember, this is what they said. Hi, we're all individuals who devoted a significant portions of our life to national security. But obviously they're not that bright because they couldn't figure this one out. We are all also individuals who see Russia as one of our nation's primary adversaries. And they say each of us believes deeply that Americans should determine the outcomes of elections, not foreign governments. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they say for all these reasons, we say that these Hunter Biden emails have the classic earmarks, dun, 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 of a Russian disinformation campaign. All right, these people are all openly lying. They know it's BS. Do you know how I know that? Because we were here reading through the emails, and I am not a former CIA director, but we were reading through the emails from Tony Bobulinski and looking at a lot of the other files, and they were about as authentic as you could possibly imagine. Is exactly what it looked like, what a hard drive would look like. And people were also cross-examining or cross-indexing the data. They were taking the laptop and they were cross-referencing it with Secret Service records. And Joe Biden, yeah, his email says, yeah, I'm going to go away on this trip to someplace in the Middle East. Guess what? On that day, he was in the Middle East. Weird. And people like Marco Polo and others, Marco Polo USA and Garrett Ziegler and those guys who could use your support, by the way, at marcopolousa.org, they were corroborating it. Everybody was corroborating it. Miranda Devine, the New York Post, everybody knew it. But these so-called intelligence idiots couldn't figure it out. They say there are a number of factors that make us suspicious of Russian involvement. Blah, 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 blah. Such an operation is consistent with several data points and the U.S. Treasury Department, and they say Rudy Giuliani's involved, and so on. We do not know whether the press reports are accurate, but they do suggest concern. And that there are agencies that mirror ours, that it's high time that Russia stops interfering with our democracy. And look how convenient this was. October 19th, 2020. You know when the election was? Like 2 weeks later, right? 3 weeks, whenever it was. Very close. And they were panicked because this email saga was catching fire all across America. So once again, all of these people, you can just know, have any of them retracted their statements? Have any of them come out and said, man, all of these credentials are for naught? Have anybody come out and disinvest? Look, they're all CIA people too. Don't they know better? Don't they have any contacts? Can't they read the headers on an email? Idiots. All right, so this is the letter that was ultimately sent out. These are the people in charge who run stuff for us. And this is John Brennan, who is the former CIA director, who was explaining it during a conversation.
I don't know. Again, I scratch my head at whatever John Ratcliffe says on these matters and just asserting something.
John Ratcliffe, by the way, was the actual DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, somebody who was reporting intelligence accurately. This is him commenting on John Ratcliffe responding to the Russia hoax allegations.
I don't know. Again, I scratch my head at whatever John Ratcliffe says on these matters and just asserting something without providing any type of, information that is going to support that assertion. I think, again, just raises questions. So I think there are a lot of issues related to this New York Post story that reportedly referenced the Hunter Biden emails. And as I and several of my former colleagues have pointed out publicly, that it does bear the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Now, we don't know whether or not that is the case, but there's
very careful weasel language there. It does bear the hallmarks, right? It does look like it. So when it turns out that it wasn't actually it, they have distance. They can create distance in that statement. They didn't say, we think this is Russian disinformation at all. They just said, no, it has the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Why? Because Russian disinformation is also hurtful to Democrats, evidently. And they know that this is hurtful, so it kind of feels like it's the same thing.
There's a lot of things that are cropping up now that may not be what they appear at first blush. And I do think it's important that John Ratcliffe or Christopher Wray provides the underlying data or analysis to support their conclusions and assertions.
That's his statement, right? And you got to imagine these guys all knew that was true. The Hunter Biden laptop was true. Remember, the FBI had a copy of the laptop and the hard drive, presumably in 2019. Some people say as early as December 2019. And these statements were coming out in 2020. So they could have verified it. Now, they would say, well, we're not in the official government anymore. But I mean, all of that expertise, they couldn't look at the same things we were looking at. Gosh, I wonder what else they're protecting us from. So we are going to take a look at the letter that Jordan sent over to Brennan, the man who signed that letter and lied to all of us. But first, let's listen to what he said about it before we read his words. This is Jim Jordan giving us a briefing about what the new Judiciary Committee will be doing in Congress, and Jordan has a big plan and an agenda.
We've had now dozens of whistleblowers come talk to House Republican staff on the Judiciary Committee. In fact, one of them is testifying in a transcribed interview as we speak.
Perfect.
Talking about how the Justice Department is now operating in such a political fashion and manner. Second, you all know about the Twitter files, where we have learned that big tech, big government are colluding to keep information from we the people. The most egregious example took place prior to the 2020 presidential election, where they kept that information from the country just days and weeks before the most important election we have, suppressing a story and limiting Americans' free speech rights. And then finally, third,
in addition, so that was just the Twitter file suppression, but they also were sort of giving the media cover to suppress the story. That's what those 50 intelligence experts were doing, right? They were saying, oh, look, guys, you can't run with this story. If you blog about this, you're going against the advice of 50 intelligence experts. Joe Biden even brought that up in the middle of a debate, that one debate. He said 50 so-called, they all needed cover. Okay, they do this. They plant stories in different locations and they play them off of one another. We've covered this disgusting behavior here many times before. But he's also, right, that's just one portion of it. We also had the Twitter files, where on Twitter, the censors there from the FBI, Elvis Chan, was saying, delete this, delete that, sending a bunch of emails over to the Silicon Valley tech people like Yoel Roth saying, remove this person, and other people saying, this is an election joke. Do you know the election's not really on a Wednesday? This is illegal disinformation from the Russians. Eliminate this person. Blah! Freaking out about it. So it was coming from every which way. Jordan says, we're in charge now, and we're going to go figure out what happened here, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
think about the accountability that we plan to bring to this administration. I just think in the broad sense. I mean, everything has gotten worse. In 2 years' time, we went from a secure border to no border. We went from safe streets to record crime. We went from stable prices to record inflation. And of course, as I've said, we have a government that now I believe is targeting the very people it is supposed to serve. So we plan on, as a Republican majority, holding them accountable and dealing with what we have seen. And again, what has been exposed from the Twitter files and, of course, what these brave FBI agents who've come to us now as whistleblowers and told us how the Justice Department is operating and how it is not supposed to be functioning in that manner, because it is supposed to be equal treatment under the law in this great country.
It is, and it has not been that way for a long time. So that's Jim Jordan. Now, he is sending a letter, as we heard, to the 11 or 12 or 14 people. You can add them all up here. It's a lot of them. All these people are getting a letter that looks very similar to the one John Brennan is getting. And so let's just focus on the one that he got, which looks like this. On February 6, 2023, Jim Jordan, chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary, along with the chairman of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Michael R. Turner, sent a letter over to John Brennan, former CIA director and one of the signers of the Hunter Biden intelligence memo. That was dead wrong. Jordan says, all right, John, we're in charge here. He says, the Committee on the Judiciary, mine, and the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Michael's, are conducting oversight of the federal law enforcement and intelligence matters within our respective committees. The Judiciary Committee made prior requests to you there, John, for documents about the public statement that you signed on October 2020 that falsely implied the New York Post regarding Hunter Biden was the product of Russian disinformation. These requests that we've sent to you previously include a request for a transcribed interview before our committees, and they remain outstanding. These documents and your testimony are necessary for the 118th Congress. And we write again, says Jim, to reiterate our outstanding requests and ask that you immediately comply in full. He says you have been on notice about our oversight requests, and you are aware the requests are outstanding. You've known this for months. But for your convenience there, John, we have attached the letters from the Judiciary Committee that we sent before. To date, you have not complied with these requests, and accordingly, we reiterate our request that you comply promptly. Please contact us to schedule a meeting if you'd like. If you have a lawyer, let them know we want to talk to them. Very nice. Conveniently, Jim Jordan attached the 2 letters for us. The first one that went out to Mr. Brennan was on December 1st, so 2022, not too long ago. He says, all right, Mr. Brennan, on April 6th, we sent you another letter. Oh, this is the first one. This is the first one on April. Yeah, first one. April 6th, 2022. Jim Jordan was not in charge of Congress at this time, so he didn't have a lot of actual oomph behind his statement, but now he does. And so this is what he is renewing. He's reiterating this. He says, all right there, Johnny boy, on October 14th, you published a letter stating what we just read. It has all the classic earmarks of a Russian operation. They said that your public statement served as the basis, right? It was the pretext. It was the excuse for all the Democrat operatives to try to delegitimize all the scandalous allegations. Politico reported the story 15 minutes after Politico published the story. Jen Psaki tweeted a link to the story, right? It's perfect. Jen's like, yes, perfect. During the final presidential debate, Vice President Biden also said that it was part of the Russian plan. Turns out that's not true at all. All of it was actually real. Turns out it wasn't dubious at all. It wasn't a scandal. And so what Jim Jordan wants to know about is the concerted effort by you, John Brennan, to suppress public dissemination of serious allegations about the Biden family. We are investigating the role that your public statement played in this effort. So therefore, we want to know the following. 1, identify all the people with whom you communicated about the Hunter Biden emails. Okay, so drafting emails, editing, signing, publishing the statement. How are you involved in drafting the letter that we read? We want all emails, communications related to the drafting of that document. They say, please produce all the material no later than April 20th, 2022. Of course, that got ignored. And look at all the people who signed off on this one. Jordan, Steve Chabot, Darrell Issa, Louis Gohmert, Ken Buck, Matt Gaetz is on there, Andy Biggs, Johnson, McClintock, and others, including Chip Roy and Burgess Owens. So he didn't respond, obviously. So they sent a follow-up letter in December, and they said, all right, well, in April, we sent you another letter. This statement serves as a basis for partisan operations, and the statement was useful in suppressing information weeks before the election. And they warned him. They gave him proper warning. They said, listen, John, buddy boy, you didn't respond to our letter on April 6th. And so we're now reiterating our request. You have to understand this, that the Republicans will continue to examine this matter next Congress, including by compulsory process, if necessary, which is going to be a lot of fun. So the Committee on the Judiciary is authorized to conduct this investigation. Jim Jordan says, please give us what we need. Sincerely, your friend, Ranking Member Jim Jordan, writing over from Congress. And so we'll see what all of these people do. John Brennan's going to lawyer up. They're all going to lawyer up. And there's all of these letters now that are all out there. Jim Jordan wrote a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them. Woo! All right. So Bash, Brennan, Clapper, Hayden, and many others are going to get those letters. We'll see if they respond. We'll see if they sit down for these transcribed interviews, or if we get any answers as to how these people got together. How did they, were they all text? Were they in a group text chat or what? They said, oh yeah, I think, does it feel like Russians to you? They're like, yeah, we should probably go to dinner and talk about the Russians, huh? And there's forwarding emails across each other. Forward, forward, forward. You want to sign this letter? Yeah, it's Russians, right? And it's probably Russians. And weird, 50 of them just got together and they signed a letter right before the election. Amazing how that works. Of course, we'll continue to cover everything the Judiciary Committee does because they're going to be very busy this year, and we will follow it. I hope that you like this video and join us as we do, and subscribe so we don't miss you on the next one. All right, my friends, and we have one final segment. Now we're going over to the Oversight Committee, which had another busy day. James Comer and the Oversight Committee are busy drafting letters. You see 3 of them went out that we are going to cover. The first one is investigating Kathy Chung. She's going to get a letter asking her about her participation in the transferring of the Biden document. She was kind of this longtime aide that we're going to read about, and they want to know who she hired or what the process was for moving those records around when Biden was moving all over the place. Comer also sent a letter to John Kerry. We know that he was touched by somebody in Washington at a young age, and he's going to be getting a letter from Comer asking why he's negotiating with China when that's not his official position at all. And the last letter from Comer is going over to Jennifer Granholm. She's the woman who was laughing at being able to do anything about gas prices in the Biden administration, and she's being asked about fixing the Russian cyber attacks that allegedly took place on our pipelines some time ago. And so the first place that we start is with Kathy Chung. The Washington Post gives us some information about her. They tell us that the longtime Biden aide is at the center of the classified documents furor. Her name is Kathy Chung. She went to work for Biden in 2012, became a part of his inner circle and a bridge between him and his family. Okay, so Biden needs stuff done. Hunter needs stuff done. Kathy Chung just takes care of it. Joe Biden had only a few days remaining in the vice president's office when his aides scurried to pack materials that he accumulated over 8 years, tons of stuff. Much of that work, the assembling of the documents, was overseen by Kathy Chung. She's an executive assistant who had become a gatekeeper for the vice president and an integral part of his personal and political family. In the final days, she went through his small office in the White House, emptying drawers, credenzas, and cabinets. Uh-oh. So Kathy Chung is being set up here. She's in big trouble. She's going to be responsible for all these classified documents. Operation for transferring his policy papers to a transition office. Chung, who had top secret security clearance at the time, oversaw a small team, helped pile the folders into boxes, not sifting through them, but making sure they were quickly stowed in about a dozen containers, later to be carted away. The labels on the boxes did not suggest anything. Instead, they carried titles like JRB Personal and Cancer Moonshot and Papal Visit. Those boxes would be moved twice before eventually ending up at the Penn Biden Center. Now, she became one of the most important figures for investigators as they were trying to understand the journey of the classified documents. She was interviewed by federal agents last month. She's now getting a letter from Comer. She's privately expressed concern that she might be partly responsible, for inadvertently packing the documents. Now interviews with people who know her shed new light on her account. All right, so she's somebody who's pretty close to this entire operation, the Biden administration. And she is now the subject of the Republican inquiry. So Kathy Chung gets a letter from James Comer. Here's what it looks like. Coming out of the Committee on Oversight and Accountability from the U.S. House of Representatives, chaired by James Comer from Kentucky, drafted on February 4th, we see that this was electronically sent over to Miss Kathy Chung. Comer writes the following. He says, "Hello, Kathy. Hope you're having a beautiful day. The Committee on Oversight and Accountability is now investigating President Biden's possession of highly classified documents. The documents retrieved from Biden's personal office and home included documents designated sensitive compartmented information. The committee has obtained evidence showing that you, Kathy, gulp, had keycard access to the Penn Biden Center. Recent reporting indicates that in January 2017, you, while serving as then Vice President's executive assistant, helped pack the departing office. And reports also indicate that officials have interviewed you about a violation of the Presidential Records Act." She's being interviewed by the FBI, the DOJ. So Comer says that, well, we have documents on file with the committee that we have, you don't. But they reveal to us that President Biden's son, you know the guy, Hunter, initially proposed a job in the vice president's office to you in May of 2012. Well, that's interesting. Hunter recommended Kathy? Hunter described your potential responsibilities as replacing the primary gatekeeper for the VP and the conduit everyone goes through to get to Joe. And additionally, Hunter explained that you, Kathy, would be the person who handles all the personal stuff for the VP. You served on the vice presidential staff from July 2012 until he left office. The committee believes your proximity to the vice president and the role as handler of all of his personal matters gave you access to not only classified material, but also to the family business schemes. And Hunter got her the job. Amazing. Please provide the following documents, Kathy, no later than February 20th. All communications with the Biden family and Eric Schwerin, all conversations related to Vice President Biden's home and departure from the Penn Biden Center, all documents related to classified materials in Delaware and elsewhere, all documents related to employees, and any records classified found at any of the locations, and more records. They say, please make yourself available for a transcribed interview. And we thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, your friend, James Comer. So Kathy Chung gets a letter, and we'll see what she does and what her lawyers do and whether she sits down for that recorded interview. But of course, we'll learn a lot more about it. And it's very interesting that Hunter got her the job. So if Hunter didn't want to use the garage door opener to go in there and get the classified materials, he could probably just text Kathy and she could go do it for him since he got her the job, So very convenient for him. Now, we also have another letter. Comer sends a letter to Kerry saying, Kerry, why are you negotiating with China? Nobody authorized you to do that. Shouldn't be doing that, given the fact that you're not the Secretary of State or authorized to engage in that level of diplomacy. But you remember John Kerry. He was also the individual who appeared at the World Economic Forum and had a very interesting explanation for why he is so moved to save the planet. This is John Kerry talking about how he was touched.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary.
It is. You're right, John.
That we, select group of human beings,
yes, the rulers, the elite,
because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives,
Klaus Schwab and Joe
sit
Biden,
in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet.
Yeah, man.
It's so
amazing,
almost extraterrestrial.
Yes, just amazing.
To think about.
We're like aliens.
Saving the planet. If
We're
you
like
said that
aliens.
to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever.
No, we think you're a psychopath who has a God complex, who thinks that only you and people like you can save the rest of us. It's kind of a weird thing. It is almost like extraterrestrial aliens because we know that you're not capable of doing that. And we know that you're not God. Thanks, though.
And there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. So they were all touched by some gift that none of us else have, and only they can save us. So, all right, that's what we're talking about. He's out there giving speeches like this all over the place. World Economic Forum. He's also engaging with China. He's part of the ruling class. The rest of the peasants like us be damned. So he got a letter from Comer, and let's take a look at that one, which is not up right now. So let me pull it open so that we can mark it up handily with our red pen. Here is the document. Let's get that nice red pen out. Drafted February 2nd, 2023. Going over to Honorable so-called John Kerry at the White House, the special presidential envoy, drafted by James Comer from Kentucky. They say, all right, John, we're investigating your role in the Biden administration and the nature of your negotiations with the Chinese Communist Party. In a preceding Congress, John, we requested information from you about your position as this so-called special presidential envoy, all right, for climate. What is that? The spec? You're a spec? A special presidential envoy for climate. All right. It's a cabinet level position that does not require Senate confirmation, despite your apparent ability to bind the United States to international agreements. Where did you get that power from, John? And spec employees and their ties to outside organizations. To date, you have failed to respond to any of our requests. Yet, you continue to engage in activities that could undermine our entire country. Our committee now requests documents. They say, John, in May of 2022, you told the Associated Press that you were in negotiations with China to form a group to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Footnote 3. So why was he doing that? Most recently at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, John, you claimed that the solution to changing global temperatures is money, 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 money. As a member of the president's cabinet, you should be representing United States. Your statements, however, have consistently shown a total disregard for America. You've also continued to downplay the CCP's human rights negotiations or violations. In 2021, you insisted that their human rights do not have to get in the way of something as critical as dealing with climate. Yeah, so, mass incarceration and perpetual slavery, not a big deal as long as the planet's, being saved, as long as you're changing your light bulbs and going green. Your office continues to ignore our requests, says Comer. Here's what we would like from you. All communications from the last 3 years of your budget records. We want all informations about what you discussed on and off the record about creating those budgets, titles of all the individuals in your employment. Who do you have hired working for you? What is this fake organization that you just created that just goes around as a special envoy? What? All documents related to any individuals, all documents connected to domestic and international travel. Please call our office to get this stuff scheduled so we can ask you questions about it. Very sincerely, your friend, James Comer. Also copying Jamie Raskin, the ranking member. So John Kerry's getting a letter, and we'll see if he responds or what he does. As we know, most of these people just throw these letters right in the garbage. That was previously. Now the Republicans have power since they control the House of Representatives. We'll see if they do anything about it. Final letter, Jennifer Granholm at the Energy Department gets a letter as well. Comer wants to know why they have not done anything to fix energy problems in America. And you remember Jennifer Granholm. She's the person who was laughing when she was being asked about the insane gas prices that Americans were facing.
In Sturgis, Michigan, it is $2.89 a gallon. I guess that's better than in California. What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God. That is hilarious. Would that I had the magic wand on this. As you know, of course.
What do you want me to do? I'm in the government.
A global market. It is controlled by a cartel. That cartel is called OPEC, and they made a decision yesterday that they were not going to increase beyond what they were already planning.
So kind of laughing at the whole thing, that clip made the waves. Everybody was giving her a lot of grief for that because they wanted to know what the Biden administration was going to do. But you remember also during that time, there were some extended issues with the pipelines, and the Russians evidently hacked it and took it over. And so Comer is sending a letter to her asking for more as well. February 2nd, drafted going over to Jennifer Granholm from James Comer on the Oversight Committee. He says, all right, we're investigating you too. And we want documents about 3 energy labs that were targeted by the Russian hacking team of 2022. Although, they write, it's unclear whether the attempted intrusions were successful, it is alarming that a hostile foreign adversary targeted government labs working on scientific research critical to national security and competitiveness. The committee requests the documents related to these incidents to determine what the impact of the attempted intrusions were and to ensure continued security of our national laboratories. They say, according to recent reports between August and September 2022, a Russian hacking team known to support the Russian government created false login pages for 3 DOE national laboratories and sent emails to nuclear scientists to elicit their passwords. Oh my gosh. They got phished. That's all. That's how you hack the government? That's how you do it? Wow, that's it? So the Russians created some fake landing pages. Like, when you get those text messages, like log into your bank right here, and you log into your bank, it's like, steal my credit card bank, and they insert your bank, it's like dot, whatever. That's all they did. And they sent him an email. Oh, don't go to that website. Go to this one. Log in here. And they put their passwords in. The targeted labs were Brookhaven National Laboratory, Argonne National Laboratory, and another one in Lawrence, Livermore. They work on very critical projects for national security and competitiveness. So the Chinese fly balloons over, and the Russians just send emails. All right. Among their scientific pursuits, BNL conducts fundamental research in nuclear and particle physics and multidisciplinary investigations. A March 2022 White House fact sheet warned about potential cyber attacks, specifically stating there is now evolving intelligence that Russians may be exploring options for cyber attacks. And the hacking group responsible, known as Cold River, has been implicated previously. So therefore, Jennifer, we need the following information from you. Anything about the hacking attempt from the DOE, BNL, ANL, LLNL, from any of those 4 locations. Also, any information from any agency about Cold River that you have, the hacking group, and any other information about contractors or subcontractors helping you fight back against Cold River. So that's an actually interesting letter there. I didn't know that that had happened, that we had 3 nuclear bases, essentially, that just got hacked because of a phishing email. Oh, gosh. They should really have 2-factor authentication installed at the nuclear missile labs. That would be a good idea. Maybe they could not be hacked. Maybe that's what saved them. Who knows? But all right, that is James Comer at the Oversight Committee, sending letters, going in hot, and we will continue to cover. Thank you for liking this video and following along wherever it is you're joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that was it for us on the day. A little bit of a shorter show. It's a Tuesday, but we covered some good ground. We had Oversight Committee updates out of the Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee going hard after the Hunter Biden and so-called intelligence experts. And we learned more about the balloon, including got some reaction from Chuck Schumer and the Republicans. We've got the State of the Union tonight. We'll see what the president has in store for us, if he's got anything useful or interesting to say. I'm sure many others will be streaming it, but we are going to leave that there. We'll come back tomorrow and see if there's anything good to tease out of it. But of course, now it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this over from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, on Twitter, on Rumble. And of course, we have some very generous super chats that came in, and we're grateful for those as well. And so let's say hello to our friends on YouTube. We had this one. Preno35 is here, says, I think we all need Watching the Watchers t-shirts. Wow, that's awesome, Preno. Well, thank you for saying that. There's been other suggestions for that, and I think it's about time to figure that out. In fact, we have a great logo, a design, a t-shirt design from our meme smith called Jigam Geegum. She's out there over on Locals, and she's doing an amazing job. She just emailed that over this morning. Thank you, Jigam Geegum, for that one. So it's all coming together, Preno. I think your suggestion is in motion. I appreciate your support on that. We'll work on that. Andy, and I've got a bunch of other stuff. Like I've got a new, I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you all about it. So I'll tell you more about this probably on maybe Friday or Monday. Preno is here. We also had Andy Hansis says, you think it was done with sensitive sites? Look up the DOE, Savannah River, Kansas City, and Oak Ridge. Yeah, if we do that, Andy, is it going to be directly underneath the path where the balloon flew? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sure they gobbled up a lot of stuff. So Fred Padamonte is here. Says, Rob, my dog Johnny is sitting down eating a bone. And I was going to say, well, that's great. Yeah, the balloon left. So he's probably returning back to normal. So all of his, Epstein, escapades, the Epstein escapades is, done. But the next one from Fred says, Rob, it's not a bone. It's a stick of dynamite. 3 exclamation points. Oh my gosh. Fred, is that, hopefully it's not for you. Your puppy brought you a stick of dynamite. Well, it might be the Chinese cleaning up after, the mess here. Your dog's got to take you out. You know too much, bro. You know about Epstein, you know about Gates, you know about the island, you know about it all. So, if he doesn't get you with that dynamite, doesn't sound like he took you out with that one. I would sleep very cautiously tonight over there, Fred. It's going to be a long night. Norman Smith says, smash the like button, win a free country. That's true. You can win a free country. I don't know what we're giving away right now. Don't have any country. Do you have a country you'd like to donate, to give away, Norman? Be very generous to give away a country. I appreciate that one. And those came over from our friends on YouTube, and we're grateful for those YouTube donos. Thank you, everybody, for sending those in. Of course, we also had one come in on Locals, a Locals tip from our friend Wims, who is a new member over on Locals. And shout out to Wims. Says, thanks, Rob and Watcher fam. Thank you there, Wims, for joining us. over on Locals, which is where we're going for our after party here in about 2 minutes. I'll say hello to our friends on Rumble. Millie is here. We got Adesia, Patrick Henry's Ghost, Perambulator is over there, along with Nick Danger III, User 1121, Little Galaxies in the house. Vienti Kiss is saying, I'd rather do something with a cheese grater than watch the speech tonight. That's basically how I feel about that one, V. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be a brutal, brutal speech for America. Joe Biden's going to be mumbling with marbles in his mouth for the better part of an hour. And it's going to be rough. We'll see what kind of stamina he has. All right, let's turn our attention over to our friends on Twitter. Holy moly. How many people are watching over here right now? Oh my gosh, it's 5 people. We're pretty consistent. We're getting pretty consistent with the 5 spot here. And so thank you to all of our Twitter viewers. We're spreading the love across the free speech platform, supporting those there. So if you want to come out over here on Twitter, you can follow me and you can follow everybody else here, right? Follow other watchers on the Twitter platform. Get connected, get to know each other, like each other's stuff, and have fun. James Pepper says, Woods Hole has a submarine we developed to recover objects we place on the floor with sonar nets. It can go to any depth and get whatever we want. Developed in the 1960s, has a lot of help getting things lost. That's awesome. That's a great. So in other words, we should be able to get that no problem, I guess. Now, does the water do anything to it? Like I know this. I know this for sure. Think about it this way. If you had to drop your phone out of an airplane and then go get it, right? Where would you rather drop it? Over land or over the ocean? Your cell phone. Like, you don't get to back up anything. You don't get to release anything, save anything. All you do is you go up there and you just have to frisbee it out. You just have to frisbee this puppy out. And then it's got everything on there, right? So you got to go get it. Where would you rather do that? An ocean or on the land? The land, obviously, right? Like, obviously. The ocean, it's going to float all over the place. It's like a moving target. You just drop it on the land, go pick it up. Vienti Kiss is here. We will, and it'll probably get the chips out of there, right? Not even be damaged. Just, might even turn on. Vienti Kiss says, we will save the planet and nature, but whales be damned. Says, once this whole balloon thing blows over, pun intended, are people going to forget about it? Or are we going to have a balloon watching community? Well, it depends if the Chinese are invading us or not. We'll have to wait and see. Your shopping paid for it. Your taxes paid to shoot it down. That's true. It's true. The Chinese will be here with a lot. Okay. Yeah, here, this one came in from Munge Party. Says Rob's hair is a national treasure. It's getting out of control today. Thank you, Munge, for saying that. I'm gonna get it taken care of a little bit tomorrow. It's gotten a little bit out of control, but it does give me a couple extra vertical inches, which is always very good. Adam is here. Says we almost broke Twitter. Look at this one. We had 13 viewers on Twitter. Out of control. Palmino says, one of the great things about the community you are building is the lack of idle rumors in the chat. That is all. Oh, this is over here from Paul. One of the great things about the community, the lack of idle rumors in the chat. Yeah, that's good. It's good. A lot of people get out there, share. It's like a water cooler. It's like a water cooler conversation. All right. We also had TJ in the house. Barbara May is here from Texas. And Omnipotent Being says, shall we dub John Kerry Captain Clueless Planet? Barbara May says, can that guy's dog impeach the president? No, there's the weather balloon one where they turn the L's into R's that we're not going to read. I believe, so we got some other good stuff on the Twitter thread. Go check out the Twitter thread if you want to see the rest of that over there. But shout out to our friends who are following us on Twitter as well. Now, that, my friends, is about it for us on the day. We are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party, where we're going to hang out there and hit some additional comments and talk about some additional good stuff. I see Zhang is here, has been a member for 12 months. Woo! That's awesome. Zhang, member for 12 months. That's awesome. Thank you for being with us, Zha. Thank you for following along and supporting all the work that we're doing here. I'm grateful that you've been a part of what we're doing here for so long. Super cool. Says MFA is great and also great for swearing. My AS, MFA, and also great for swearing. That's from Jia Jiang. Thank you for that one, Jia. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. All right, my friends. And so we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come and check us out over there if you'd like to join us. Before we wrap it up, thank you to our sponsors over at brickhousenutrition.com. You can save 15% with code Robert. Get your field of greens. Just check them out. If you don't want greens, there's all sorts of other stuff for sleep and for collagen. I mean, there's all sorts of goodies there. Field of greens is awesome. It tastes good. You know, I know people don't, they think about greens like, oh gosh, what does it taste like? Grass? No, it's actually good. It goes down easy. So check it out. Fieldofgreens.com. Save 15% with code Robert. Get your real organic superfood and be ultra green and vibrant. Of course, our law firm as well. The R&R Law Group, located in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. 480-787-0394. Online at rrlawaz.com. Also, ultra shout outs to our mods who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. We got Vientikis Prime is in the house. K Bean, ultra shout out. Just Cause is out there in the mod forum. Shout out to our friend Lean, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu in the house, along with our friend Geomancy. He's on YouTube. You can subscribe to his channel if you'd like. Also, our friend Sleepy Dog Lee is one of our extraordinary meme smiths over on Locals. And he's also on Twitter at Sleepy Dog Lee. So give him a follow. And our friend Geegum Geegum, who has our t-shirt design, which is sitting in my inbox. Thank you to Geegum Geegum for our meme smith crew who are helping to memeify the program. And we're grateful for that. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We will go over to Locals for the after party. But if I don't see you over there, we'll come back here tomorrow and do it all again. There's going to be a lot more to attend to, and I hope to see you here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.